Darktide is almost the best Horde game I've ever played, and there are a ton of games in this genre. Games where you must survive as long as possible within an arena. Games where you go back and level up your character for better run. And games that have self-contained replayable levels that you must survive in. So what separates Darktide from those games? Well, to answer this question, I'm going to take you through my journey playing Darktide. And while we slice, crush, and liquefy Nurgle's heretic fanboys, we will run through everything Darktide does fantastically as a Horde game and where it comes up short. Our main objective is to kill the twins, the main bosses of the latest update, Traitors Curse. Let's begin. After being absurdly excited about Darktide leading up to his initial release on Game Pass, I was swiftly disappointed by the fact that it was only on PC Game Pass, which wasn't an issue for me, but it made it a hassle to squad up with my wife and dad, who just wanted to play on Xbox. So we decided to wait on playing it anymore until it came onto the Xbox side of Game Pass. We didn't know it would take nearly a whole year, and that me and my wife would still end up playing it on PC. But luckily, within that year, the game got updates on updates, with a new character skill tree and new missions for the Traitors Curse update. Upon logging back on, I was greeted by my good old Ogryn, Panda. When I created my Ogryn, I tried my best to make him look suave and distinguished, unlike many Ogryn out there. Instead, he ended up looking like Santa's mutated and roided out brother. But what he didn't have in looks, he made up for in style. Wait, what the hell am I wearing? A burlap sack? Babe, what are you wearing? What the f? So my first goal became to acquire drip that would make a Sister of Battle swoon. Before I jumped into the poop-soaked city of Tertium, I wanted to check out the new skill tree they had added. And boy was it impressive. You have 3 main paths you can go down for each character's skill tree. Or you could get mad scientist with it and start mixing and matching whatever skills you wanted. If you wanted a playstyle that just made sense, it was as simple as going down the left, middle, or right hand side of the skill tree. In my case for the Ogryn, my first decision would be if I wanted a tactical nuke, a box full of grenades, or a rock.
Kobe!
Oh, I'm sorry, I meant to say big friendly rock. The choice may seem obvious for a nuke, but all had their benefits and drawbacks. The rock was fantastic for killing elite units, and you got 4 of them which recharge over time, while the nuke destroyed everyone even remotely near it, but you could only carry 1 at a time. And of course, the box of grenades was the sweet spot. You get 2 boxes which hit 1 heretic for a lot of damage. It also explodes into multiple volleys of grenade. This is so much better than it was at launch, which was just a box of grenades that didn't explode. Very funny, until your Ogryn realizes he doesn't get to go big boom. So that being said, I wasn't going to pass up becoming Santa, the destroyer of worlds.
Because when I hit this button, it goes brah! Right? When I hit this button, they're fucking dead, bro!
I jumped into the first mission of Darktide with my wife, also known as Mel the Maneater on YouTube. She makes magic, Warhammer, and 3D printing videos. Please go check her out. We were greeted by a whole host of maggot-filled heretics. Not quite the pinatas I'm used to, but they were just as fun to smack to bits with my beat stick. The issue with the mission was that there wasn't really any depth to it. You could die if you weren't really trying, but it wasn't making my blood pump. So we jumped into a level 3 mission, and this was the Darktide I was looking for. Waves of enemies that filled up the halls of Tertium, mixed with a variety of elite and unique units, which on their own were a minor nuisance. But together, they stomped Melly and I into the ground. The single best unit in the game were these grappler dudes, who I swear you could hear for like a whole minute. All these new enemies were so fun, but Melly and I were so buns. We died again, and again, and again. Most of the time, we just needed to get good. There were frustrating moments where little Jimmy, who was only level 4, wanted to run around by himself only to contract Uncle Nurgle's special strand of COVID 40k and die, causing the mission to become harder than it already was. This is a real dilemma in Darktide. One second you have a level 30 Sigmar Chad who will carry my Ogryn's big butt through a level with ease. The next second you have a level 5 crackhead who doesn't understand that staying alive and jumping headfirst into a wave of maggots doesn't mix. If you have a friend, you can turn off matchmaking, which will let you play with bots, who are less than useless. I personally think they are designed this way on purpose to get you to matchmake, which makes sense. But it can be frustrating to jump into a 30-minute long mission only to get matched with Pinhead Larry.
What kind of place is this?
But I guess that's an issue found in all online games at this point. Either way, me and Melly leveled up and it was time to choose our second ability. The Ogryn had 3 new main abilities to unlock. Indomitable, which is basically the same charge I remember when the game first came out. But I just wanted something different, so I took a look at Loyal Protector, an ability that basically taunts enemies to fight me while transforming my Ogryn into a tank, which wasn't exactly what I was interested in. Lastly, there was Point Blank Barrage, which increases your rate of fire by 25% and reload speed by 70%, plus the sub upgrade made everyone light on fire. Now this is what I was looking for. I found myself a twin-linked heavy stubber and proceeded to purge Tertium with Cleansing Fire. The best part of this ability is that it worked to fend off hordes while still being a good ranged option to stop gunners. This stage of the game finally felt like it was kicking into high gear. The missions were the right difficulty, I had multiple abilities and equipment to use, I loved my new machine gun, but most of all, the music was banging. Listen to Immortal Imperium. It has these heavy synths like then the angelic choir kicks in like hee ho hee ho hee ho. Then the boy starts singing like There are quite a few bangers in there, all signifying in-game that some shit is about to go down. While I do wish I got to hear the main tracks more often, having the music only hit at the most intense moments is a great way of telling the player to buckle up. You know when you get pulled out of a game, but it's because something is so fun or epic or emotionally impactful that your brain is trying to tell you to remember this? Well, that's what this music triggers for me. My brain lights up with dopamine as a huge grin forms on my face and I charge in. We were ready to fight the twins. On level 3 difficulty, mind you, we weren't that good yet. We had abilities, guns, and drip. Well, Melly had drip. I had skinny jeans. There has to be something better. There has to be. Let's take a look at what I can unlock. A shirt with bags. Well, this one with the squiggly spooch is pretty cool. And of course, a Mad Maxi one. That's it. Not gonna lie, I was a bit disappointed. The Veteran has this, and the Psyker has this, and the Zealot has this. Hey babe, have you seen the Zealot's clothes? Wait, where did you get those?
I unlocked them.
Unlocked this? All I've unlocked is tight pants and a red shirt. This was a major blow for me. The whole point of the game was to make Panda look suave, but that dream was dead. And to add salt to the wound, the weapon skins were appalling. Here are your choices: red or blue. Why was it that this first-person shooter has more tank tops for my Ogryn that I won't see 90% of the time, instead of gun skins for the characters which we will see 1000% of the time? This broke me. I was mad now, and ready to take on the twins. Entering the twins mission, it seemed like we were prepared. The first twin spanked our butts a bit, but we survived. The second twin had an insane pistol that dealt devastating damage, along with throwing poison bombs everywhere. I don't know how we got past this point, but Melly came in clutch, throwing down a grenade and picking me up while we stood in her holy flame, allowing me the ability to run over and get the boys up. After Rode and Karnak pieced out, we proceeded through the mission until we met them both at the same time. This was a completely one-sided affair. We stood no chance of their combined might. I wish I could show you in detail what went down, but this is when I realized all my footage got messed up. During some sort of update, OBS settings got switched up and resulted in my footage becoming a choppy mess, as you can see. On top of that, the game refused to run easily for me. After a year, I would have thought they would have gotten the optimization down, but sadly, I was mistaken. I don't have a crazy 5090 with an i15 Intel Core Threadripper 9000, but my 3070 and i7 could run most games I threw at it on medium or high settings. Dark Tide was not one of those games. I was just bummed at this point. The twins had stomped us, the footage was ruined, the game refused to run well, and throughout these last couple of missions, I started to not enjoy my Ogryn. At the beginning of all this, I thought maybe I should be a Psyker. Magic is always a favorite for me, and the abilities just looked so cool, but I had wanted to stick with Panda. The issue with my build was that Point Blank Barrage took a long time to recharge. My grenade could only be used once, so I rarely used it. And I felt like I was dying a lot because I was playing in a way that wasn't optimal but was most fun for me. And most of all, no drip. Let me just look in the item shop. Wait. I can look like Santa? It's drip or drown season and I am swimming. Baby, look at my hat.
Aw, I love it, babe.
Guys, I think this might be the best game. So I optimized the game, put my new gun and hat skin on, and got to work building the funnest build of all time. It all started when I saw a funny little ability called Delight in Destruction. 10% damage resistance per bleeding enemy in melee range. This ability stacks 6 times to give you 60% damage resistance. Well, that seems both easy and good, doesn't it? So, what gives bleed? With the ability Batter, you can inflict 4 instances of bleed per heavy swing. Then with Bull Rush's modifier, Pulverizer, I can run through a crowd and give everybody 5 instances of bleed. Why are bleed builds always so good? So I added those abilities and a whole host of other abilities to make my heavy attacks brutal, and turn myself into a living Lehman Russ. But there was one issue. The heavy attacks took a while to charge. They would snowball in damage the more I swung, but enemies could do some crazy damage to me in that time. So then I stumbled upon the kickback shotgun and the rumbler grenade launcher. You could actually swing with these weapons at the speed of a light attack, but for some reason they counted as a heavy attack, which means you can jump into a group, immediately make everyone bleed, raise your toughness by 60%, and gain toughness back with each swing. The only downside was that the gun swing did less damage than a light weapon swing, but you could just switch to the melee weapon after applying bleed and buffing yourself. This build isn't even crazy, I just followed the left hand side of the skill tree. I'd love to hear what kind of builds you guys are making with any of the classes. Melly with her Zealot decided to make a crowd control support build with a grenade that burns enemies, which she usually reserved for reviving teammates, and a support chant that buffed our health bars. Also, if you couldn't tell, Melly really likes the Sisters of Battle. I mean, like, really likes the Sisters of Battle. She even made her Zealot have a white bob, like a Sister of Battle. And just like the one she has in real life, we needed a real challenge to test these builds. So Heresy Threat mission, here we come. If we could beat a Heresy level mission, then we could beat the twins, goddammit. So in this mission, us rejects were tasked with stabilizing a cooling system. Our team was made up of Santa, a wannabe Sister of Battle, Stud File, whatever the hell that's supposed to mean, and a guy with a raging headache. The first thing we had to do was locate the coolant controls. At first, it was pretty chill, until it suddenly wasn't. There was definitely more specialist units, but Darth Sidious here electrocuted them all, giving me time to triple save my wife. Together, I used my trusty shovel to enact its intended purpose: murder. We raced down corridors, liquefying everything in sight, until a raging chaos spawn came at us. I threw a box of grenades at its butt cheek, and it didn't like that very much. It was frantic and it was crazy, but after many a smack with my shovel, it was dead. Did I mention the shovel does this? We made it to the control center.
2 seconds later.
Well, that's hot. This room was filled with grenaders, trappers, and snipers. And I only think we survived because Palpatine had a shield to save us from ranged weapons. So I focused on what I was good at: bludgeoning heretics with my gun and making their internal organs bleed. But even when there was an enemy out of range, luckily my shotgun was also not a shotgun. Look at that range! I honestly thought the mission was done there, and the next thing I know, I'm running down hallways filled with las rifle heretics, which are definitely my Ogryn's weakness. Then you mix that with a plague Ogryn, and I'm dead. I swiftly got my revenge and put my Ogryn brother out of his misery. But my wife was dead. Not like down dead, like we need to rescue her dead. We got down the elevator and saved Melly from Uncle Nurgle's clutches, but the cryonic rods needed to be reslotted. Santa was ready to deliver those rods by any means necessary. Excuse me, children. Melly covered my back as I ran the rods to all 3 conduits. All we needed to do was hold the line. But why hold the line when it's so fun to jump into the middle of it all? This is Santa's happy place. Without much effort, we made it back, safe and sound. We were ready for the twins. But before we fight the twins, subscribe! You know you've been enjoying the ride. And because of all you guys who have already subscribed, YouTube lets me have memberships now. Look at these emojis and badges my wife has made so far. Yeah, I'm pretty proud of her. So definitely join if you want to buy me the energy drink and make videos come out just a little bit faster, or subscribe. Either way, I appreciate everyone so much. I know you want to see our twins experience, but let me highlight how fun Maelstrom missions are. Me and Melly got a chance to play one on threat level 3, and it may have been one of the funnest things I've experienced in the game so far. The issue for me is that in a lot of combat scenarios, there are a lot of specialist units or a lot of horde units. But in Maelstrom, there is a lot of specialist, horde, and boss units. It makes for this gameplay experience that is just pure chaos in the best way possible, or pure horror.
I am glad Emperor is with us. He is with us, yes? Up down.
Okay, time for the twins. This was the squad: Santa, a sister's fangirl, and bots?
This is not okay. This needs to stop now. This is cancer.
Well, we may be fucked, but if we didn't beat the twins now, this long ass video would never come out. So we ran ahead. We braced ourselves for Rinda Karnak. But this time, the experience was completely different. We crushed her in moments. Our higher levels and better experience was showing. Then matchmaking got us a new reject, Ignitus. With some in-depth research, I learned that Ignitus was one of Nurgle's first Plague Marines, and loved the smell of poop so much he became a Chaos Demon Prince of Poop. I don't know why you're naming your dude after the Prince of Poop, but further in the mission we went, facing Ogryn Karnak. He was still harder than his sister, but none of us even came close to falling down. We were joined by our last reject, Big Boy. His name was pretty on the nose, but Ogryn aren't known for their intelligence, and he was level 11. It wasn't too big of a deal. Ignitus was level 30, and it was nice to be the one carrying for a bit at once. Each section of the mission was handled with ease, but the moment of truth was here. Us versus both twins. Melly and I decided to take on the sister. I made sure to block all of her attacks, then charge to knock her down. While this was happening, Ignitus shat on Ogryn by himself, resulting in us finally defeating them. Most Darktide missions don't really have a proper boss fight, so much to our surprise, this one did. There was one final section. As we arrived at the prep room, we knew we were in for something rough. They don't just give you infinite ammo, med packs, grenades, and a med station for no reason. This had me and Melly sweaty, so we shook off our nerves and descended to the boss arena.
If only we could make this last.
You never changed, sister. Still playing with your food.
There's no flavor without spoons.
Ogryn was immediately downed with Rinda right behind him. They managed to teleport away, filling the whole room with poisonous gas. I fended off waves of green-eyed Nurgle spawn with my trusty gun slap. I may have misused my charge, but it was okay. I made up for it by implanting a box of grenades into Ogryn's booty cheek. As quickly as they came, they left the room, with more gas for us to dodge. This time the safe area would change, so I needed to rush forward and create a path for the team. Look, I earned some pants with a pot lid attached to the knee. What an unbelievably awesome reward. The twins were back and our team's health was getting a little bit wrecked. I tried to save Big Boy, but Rinda's fury was just too much, and I had to fend her off while Melly saved it. My toughness got low, but with just a few swings of my gun, I was sitting pretty again. What I didn't notice was how Ogryn got melted by Ignitus and Melly. One twin down. Gas erupted around us. This time the safe spot switched twice, but we had this part down by now. Then the twins arrived again. Ogryn was back somehow, so I introduced his face to my feet.
Ooh, that's kind of small.
I had no time to celebrate as I was being surrounded by armored heretic scum. Those troops mixed with Rinda was too much for Santa, even with blocking and backdashing. My wife yet again saved my big butt, and we put in work on Rinda. And with one final slice, Rinda was dead. We had done it. We had killed the twins. Melly and I would not have gotten through this fight without the teachings of the legendary Uncle Ruckus. I can tell you all about the legendary Uncle Ruckus in a video that will be releasing on the 28th, so mark your calendars because I also will be streaming Dark Tide at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So subscribe if you don't want to miss the video or the stream. Now that I've played Dark Tide, I would say the gameplay curve is like this: boring, hyper fun, then boring. At the beginning of the game, the enemy variety per mission is pretty low, and you don't have any abilities, so it's not quite boring, but it's dry. Then you get into the meat of the game and it sings. Afterwards, you max out your character and start grinding, then it becomes boring. I've seen a lot of people voice this online about how the gameplay loop becomes the same after a while. So how do we solve this for Dark Tide? My recommendation is to set a goal for your playgroup and your experience, and then stop when you achieve that goal. Then take a long break before returning to the game. I know everybody wants that magical game that they can just grind forever, but that doesn't exist. And trust me, you don't really want that. Variety is the spice of life. I appreciate for once that this update was just that, an update of quality content that we could all go experience for just a couple of hours. My issue with a lot of Warhammer games is that I'll go to buy the game and be met with a wall of DLC that I need to purchase to get the full experience. Total War, I'm looking at you. So far, this game isn't that. And even if there is DLC later, I can safely say the base game is worth your time. The only issue I have left with the game is the randomness of it all. Sometimes you get a level 30 dude who is so cocky, he ruins the mission for everyone, stealing all the ammo, running ahead to solo everything, because he or she is so good before dying. Then sometimes you have a Zeta Plus Giga Chad who can kill most enemies before you can even reach them, turning the game into a dull experience. Or you get this perfect team that turns the game into this perfectly balanced experience. Now mix that randomness with the randomness inherent with the enemy variety in each mission. Sometimes boringly easy, sometimes brutally hard. This in no way ruins the game, but if you can get together a group or even a friend to play with, it will make your experience much better. So to answer the question, is this the best Horde game I've ever played? No. Almost, but no. Is it even my favorite Warhammer game I've played so far? No, it's not. It almost is, but it's not. Here's my list. For me, the best Horde shooter I've played so far is the Gears of War Horde mode. For some reason, that mode is infinitely replayable for me. But why? Very soon, I'm going to be checking out Vermintide 2 and seeing how it compares to Dark Tide. But it doesn't stop there. I'm going to be making a Horde game series, trying to find out what is the best Horde game available. So if you like Deathwing or Gears of War 2 or whatever Horde game that you like, definitely subscribe. Our Dark Tide journey doesn't end here though. Next week on Sunday the 28th, I'm going to be doing a Dark Tide stream here on YouTube and maybe on Twitch if I can figure that out, at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I'll be playing some Dark Tide with a super secret smaller YouTube video coming out earlier that day. So please subscribe and come down the 28th at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time so I can talk with you all. See ya guys.